maybe for it to be communal land doesn't mean that the government should take advantage of the Maasai community. We're giving it out for the common good of us, because when we have tourists coming to this country, we equally benefit. But look, we're not benefiting as the Maasai when we are limited on how we're supposed to be using our lands. So, I still believe we need to be given room for explanation, Mr. Kilonzo. And thank you for this panel, because when we go to this COP28, civil societies, young people like us are not being given a forum for negotiations. The people that can access these rooms majorly are senior-most people who've been in the government, and we are not being given rooms for negotiations. And I think it's about time we should invite Pan-African and the rest of the civil societies to come over Maasai land. Let's capacity build our people, because if they come right now and they pay them 25,000 maybe for a whole year, or maybe the $30, you know, a Maasai will look at the $30 and they will think that this is a lot of money, because they hear the word dollar. And most of them have not gone to school. Like, I've gone to Maasai Mara and I found Maasai's women doing the bidding. And when they're told this one is going for $10, I only have $10, they say, my kids haven't taken anything for this long. And what is affecting them? It is climate change.
Thank you so much, Edith. It's been difficult for me.
So you mean the government is protecting wildlife that we, the community, we, the Maasai community, have been protecting our entire years? We've never gone against wildlife. Even when you come to my dad's home today, the zebras are equally licking salt with the cows and the goats, together with the hair and everything. But funny enough, the same government we're trying to protect the wildlife for the common good of the national game reserves and national parks are the same people that are coming to actually oppress the Maasai community. The question in mind is, how well will the people now protect the forest, or rather the wildlife, now that they're being frustrated? The first point is that Maasai really depend on trees. And it's very rare to see a Maasai cut down a tree, because the cultural practices beginning from childbirth entails a certain type of tree practices or maybe habit. So when we talk about childbirth, we have a tree called Emisigiyoi, and the Maasai is still protected to name a child after her because there are protocols. When it comes to circumcision, we have Latimi, whereby a boy is named and given a name in between the adulthood and the childhood. And when it comes to death, the same thing happens. And look, here comes the government that is eating people and protecting wildlife more than human beings. We lost over 4.5 million livestock due to climate change. The question in mind is, where is the loss and damage funds? Because we, the masses, have never seen it. We've never accessed it. And someone is talking about COP27, COP26. Who are in these negotiation rooms? Who are representing the voices of the Maasai? How well informed are our people? Who breaks the information for them? So all we can say is that we're not against growing trees. We're not against environmental conservation, because that has been part of us as a Maasai community. We've never been against it. We've never cut down any trees because our cultural practices doesn't allow us to do that. The other thing I'd like to put across is that we, the Maasai, are not stupid as people think. Because, we have this kind of an articulation whereby we don't understand our rights. Let me tell you, younger generations are coming up, and we won't be afraid to speak out. We will protect our people because our grandfathers have been manipulated, our politicians have been pocketed, and they forget to protect the rights of the Maasai community. The women will suffer the most, because when climate change happens, who are suffering the most? The women go for longer distances fighting the waters, and they are actually raped. they are taken advantage of. Domestic violence happens because the rivers have gone dry. When we talk about uplifting of logging, who does it benefit? We don't even cut down trees for logging wood as the Maasai community. So the question in mind is, how well are we protecting with the carbon marketing thing? Because if you talk to me about 50 trees for 1 ton, and you know how long it takes for a tree to mature, what are we eating all those particular years? When you tell us not to step on our grasses, and we have cultural practices whereby when the cows are feeding on these grasslands, the rest are left for the manure to actually it's a tree foundation. So we continue to add the value to trees and the number of trees in our lands to ensure that at least we have tree cover for good and excellent environmental mitigation and adaptation measures. And now that we are going for fruit trees that the masses are not used to it, we're trying the very best to do our level best to educate our people, to sensitize them, and to actually go for implementation projects to ensure that we curb the hazardous effects of climate change. And I think that is not even a point of negotiation whereby the government want to tell us they want to protect our land through carbon credits. No.
Maybe any organization
Act as a court, and we are doing what we can. Though we do not have cases that we would call climate change cases, we have a number of environmental cases, but we hope that sooner than later, we expect to have climate change cases. We have created a specific department called the Environment and Planning Division that has the mandate to handle environmental and climate change matters. And the intention is to ensure that they are given the priority, they are dealt with as expediently as they deserve. Yes.
maybe cases brought to the environmental planning.
Assisting it. I don't want to talk about carbon markets because we don't have time, but there are so many platforms of conversations. We are working on various areas and trying to see how we can catalyze such conversations and things with all stakeholders, because it is important and pertinent that we make people understand. The awareness about climate change now is undoubtedly that everybody understands where we are. The only problem and the biggest impediment is the implementers and the enforcers of the law. We have the best policies, we have the best laws, but we have realized that it's one thing to have the law, it's one thing to have the framework, it's one thing to have the policy, but enforcement and implementation is the biggest challenge which we have. So we need to put pressure on the government. We need to put pressure on those who have that responsibility for implementation. But if we keep aloof, I can assure you that we'll have those.
They will receive my submissions, the Policy Council submissions, they will brood through it and find their mind around it. But then doing that to multiple other cases makes the judges also sort of experts in this area. So they're coming back to the community to tell the community, from what I have heard, being on the bench, I think we can address the issues that are yet to come before us in this kind of manner. So among the ways and interventions that, for example, Pajala now is doing, is having community outreach programs with the community, to go and do community planting, and after that they call the community and address the community to the issues that pertain to those communities. For instance, just the other day we had, on Thursday last week, we had the Judiciary Tree Planting Day. Planted trees across all port stations, 52 port stations in the country. For the purpose that people need to also interact directly with the judiciary and get to benefit from what wisdom there is on this other side. This wisdom, my senior will acknowledge that when you go before a judge, you, as a lawyer, you will first think, how did he come to know this? Is it his researcher, or is it just his own wisdom? But it is because he's been doing this over and over and over again the last 10 years, 15 years. So they have things that they want to give back to the community. But how do they then do that? So in answering your question on the access to justice, oftentimes matters do not originate from the bench to the bench itself, but from the people to the bench. But now, what the bench is now doing is going back to the people and telling them, by the way, from what I've gathered in terms of knowledge and experience for this many years, this is how I think this community should look at their issues. And that is why I think Judge Mugo, when he was on his seat, said the judiciary can only do so much. But then in doing so much, it now is alive to all the spectrum around it. Including, there's an aspect that I now know that the judiciary is looking at in terms of how to integrate AI and climate change. For the simple reason, there's a lot of data, but it has not been brought together. There's a lot of jurisprudence in court, except now that there is none particularly that comes directly as climate justice, but we have had an environment and land court for the last 30 years.
Communities, so that when those northern Northridge companies, the ones which are purporting to do the carbon markets, soil carbon, purport that they are giving them money. It is not them, they are not giving them as charity. It is their responsibility because they are northern companies.
Maybe connected to that, is there a mechanism that maybe you've put in place? I've witnessed you say
heritage issues, and I think that is an indication that we know that we can be able to work together. All right, so I'm not going to invite them to stand. They're going to exchange those signed documents. Of course, we'll take that photo first with clear signs or signatures from both of them.
Vision that operates in the northeastern Kenya. We're currently based in Gotu, Isiolo County, Kenya, and our main work is to focus on human rights and climate justice. When we talk about human rights in those areas, we look at things like gender inclusion, we look at things like FGC, female genital cutting, and so on and so forth. So today, I am here courtesy of Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. I am alumni, and I am an alumni of their cohorts, the third cohort of Nairobi Summer School of Climate Justice. After my training, or rather after my school there, I went ahead to focus deeply on matters of climate justice. And so today, I was representing the voice of the youth in how can we be, how can our voices better be projected in these spaces? How can we gain more knowledge in these spaces? And throughout my time, we focus on capacity building. That we go to the universities, there's so much that is said there, but no one really tells us how this climate justice comes in. And now the issue of human rights, the moment it's brought in, it really adds weight to the topic. And we as the youth have the mandate and actually should be going out there to try and look for solutions on to how best to help save the earth. And in this regard, I am also a member of the Kenya Young Parliamentarian Association. I represent Maasai County in the Youth Bunge Dialogue. And here, right now, my current work is on petitions, which is another area that the youth actually needs to be investing in. How do you write petitions? What bills are ongoing? When you go to the parliament sites, you can check and see that there are ongoing bills. And as of now, when talking about climate justice, carbon markets is a very contentious, controversial, emerging issue. And if you as a youth are out there, you would want to participate in this conversation. And coming from a community, like for me, I'm coming from a very pastoralist community, and we are facing the risk of our indigenous practices being deprived from us. So I, myself, and on behalf of other youth, together with other youth actually, we go, we write petitions, we work, we look at this thing in a collaborative aspect. We want to collaborate with the lawmakers, we want to collaborate with our representatives, our members of parliament, and also those in the Senate on how best can we help add on to the ongoing bill on carbon markets, just as one of the many issues.
It's nothing to celebrate that because that money is even not enough. It is even not cannot, you can hear Kenya's NDC is that amount, 60 billion US dollars. You see? But now, if you compare that, one person, this star athletes, footballers, earns 200 million per year. You see? And yet now we celebrate just the whole world contributes 800 and they celebrate. That cannot even support even Northeastern. So the thing is, we have been fighting for quite provision of resources. So industrialized countries should contribute money proportionate to what is required to be done. So that's what it's the issue of justice. In fact, the other challenge with that loss and damage is, yes, money was contributed. There is no framework even to access that money. As of now, that's what we are fighting for. So institutional framework itself, look, the Green Climate Fund was established, we celebrated, but this Green Climate Fund, even to access that money for our community is like a camel going through a needle, a hole of a needle. It is not possible. It takes 3 years, and even those 3 years, they make it very complicated. So these are the challenges which we are really facing in climate finance, but no problem, we are fighting it and we are going to win.